with two horns and a tail, the Prophet was referring to the devil of racism, of caste, of color. That irrespective whether you're rich or poor, whether you're king or pauper, when you stand for salah, stand shoulder to shoulder. Irrespective whether you're black or white, brown or yellow, when you stand for salah, stand shoulder to shoulder. This is the teaching of beloved Prophet. And the best part of salah is the sujood, is the prostration. And the psychologists tell us that our mind is not directly under our control. Our body is directly under our control. If I want to lift my hand, I can lift my hand. If I want to bring it down, I can bring it down. If I want to take a step forward, I can take a step forward. If I want to take it backwards, I can take it backwards. Body is directly under my control. But the mind keeps on wandering. It's not directly under my control. The psychologists say, in order to humble the mind, you have to humble the body. And there's no better way than putting the highest part of the body, that's the forehead, on the lowest part of the ground and then say, glory be to Allah, the Most Highest. Glory be to Allah, the Most Highest. And the same method has been prescribed even in the Bible. In the Old Testament as well as New Testament. If you read the book of Genesis, chapter number 17, verse number 3, it says that Abraham fell on his face. In the book of Numbers, chapter number 20, verse number 6, Moses and Aaron fell upon their faces. In the book of Joshua, chapter number 5, verse number 14, Joshua fell on his face and did worship. It's mentioned in the New Testament. Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, when he goes in the Garden of Gethsemane, in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter number 26, verse number 39, it says that Jesus took a few steps forward, fell on his face and prayed to thy Lord. I'm asking you a question. Even an acrobat cannot do better, fall on the face and pray to God than the way we Muslims do. It's the same way. How Jesus, peace be upon him, prayed. So if following the teachings of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, makes a person a Christian, then we Muslims are more Christian than the Christians themselves. The third pillar is zakat, which in Arabic, it means to purify, to grow. And every adult Muslim who's rich, who has a saving of more than the nisab level, 85 grams of gold, he should give 2.5% of his saving every lunar year in charity to the poor people. It's compulsory. And the people to whom charity should be given this compulsory charity zakat is given in Surah Tawbah, chapter number 9, verse number 60. It can be given to the fuqara, to the poor, to the masakin, to the needy, to the amilun, those who are engaged in collecting of zakat, to mu'allafatu al-qulub, those whose hearts are coming closer to Islam, to the gharimun, to the debtors, to the riqab, to those who have become slaves, to free the slave. It can be given to the ibn sabil, those who is a wayfarer, a person who stranded in a foreign land, or fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If every rich human being in this world gives zakat, poverty will be eradicated from this world. There will not be a single human being who will die of hunger. Similar message is given in the Bible. If you read in the 1 Peter's chapter number 4, verse number 8, it says that give charity, for charity reduces multitudes of sins. Give fervent charity, for with charity you can reduce multitude of sins. And the glorious Quran says in Surah Al-Hashr, chapter 59, verse number 7, it gives the reason for zakat as to prevent the wealth from circulating amongst the rich. The Quran says in Surah Tawbah, chapter number 9, verse number 34, that there are people who bury gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Announce to them a grievous penalty, that fire will be produced from their wealth, from the hellfire, and with it they'll be branded on the day of judgment, on the forehead, on the back, and on the flanks. And it will be said to them, this is the wealth you buried, have a taste of the wealth you buried. Hoarding of wealth is prohibited in the glorious Quran. The fourth pillar is Hajj. It's the pilgrimage. That every adult Muslim who has the economic and physical means to perform Hajj should at least perform Hajj once in his lifetime. That's a visit to the holy city of Makkah during Hajj. and visit Mina as well as Arafat, etc. And it's the biggest annual gathering. About 2.5 million people gather from various parts of the world, from America, from UK, from Singapore, from Malaysia, from India, from Pakistan, from various parts of the world they gather, and the men, they wear 2 pieces of unsewn cloth, preferably white. You cannot identify the person standing next to you whether he's king or a pauper. It is the best example of universal brotherhood. And the glorious Quran says, in Surah Hujurat, chapter 49, verse number 13, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min zakin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum shawman wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum innallaha alimun khabir. O humankind, we have created you from a single pair of male and female and have divided you into nations and tribes so that you shall recognize each other, not that you shall despise each other. And the most honored in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the person who has taqwa. The criteria for judgment in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not sex, it's not wealth, it's not caste, it's not color, it's taqwa. It's God consciousness, it's piety, it's righteousness. The 5th pillar is Sawm, that's fasting, in the month of Ramadan. That every adult Muslim should abstain from having food, drink, and sex from sunrise to sunset, the complete lunar month of Ramadan in every lunar year. And the Quran says in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 183, that fasting has been prescribed to you as it was prescribed to people that came before you, so that you may learn self-restraint. Fasting has been prescribed to control your desires, self-restraint. And today the psychology they tell us that if you can control your hunger, you can control almost all your desires. And a similar message is given in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter number 17, verse number 21, and the Gospel of Mark, chapter number 9, verse number 29, that people have been commanded to fast. And in the month of Ramadan, fasting helps you to improve your bad deeds. The things that you normally do during the course of life throughout the year, you try and avoid doing the wrong things, and that may remain part of your life. The good thing that you don't do during the year, during Ramadan you want to do, that may become a part of your life. If you can abstain from smoking from sunrise to sunset, you can abstain smoking from the cradle to the grave. If you can abstain from having intoxicants from sunrise to sunset, you can very well abstain from the cradle to the grave. And research done that fasting increases the intestinal absorption. These were the 5 pillars of Islam. But these 5 pillars do not make up the complete Islam. As our beloved Prophet said, these are 5 principles, these are 5 pillars. And any engineer will tell you, any architect will tell you, that if the pillars are strong, then the structure will be strong. So if any human being follows these 5 pillars correctly, inshallah, his other principles of life also will be strong. The glorious Quran says in Surah Dhariyat, chapter 51, verse 56, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I have created the jinn and men not but to worship me. That means the jinn and men have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship him. The Arabic word used is ibadah. Comes from the root word abd. Abd. In Arabic, abd means slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it means a servant. So ibadah is a person who does servitude, who obeys his master. Anyone who obeys the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's called ibadah. Salah is the only form of ibadah. It's one of the highest form of ibadah, but it's not the only form. Following the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also ibadah. For example, abstaining from food which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited you from having, you are doing ibadah. For example, Quran says in Surah Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 90, that, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, innamal khamru wal maisuru, most certainly intoxicants and gambling, wal anzabu wal azlamu, dedication of stones, divination of arrows, rishthum min amali shaitan. These are Satan's handiwork. Fashtanibu lalakum tuflihun. abstain from this handiwork that you may prosper. So if you abstain from having intoxicants, from gambling, from idol worship, from fortune telling, you are doing ibadah.